Which group?
Yes, sir.
Because they have made 4 groups, I think. 6 groups.
End of life policy में everybody is scared of कि somebody, but if you look at the literature, not one case has again gone against anybody so far where they have taken an end of life policy and they have been challenged. That is the biggest thing. They have been challenged where people have been taken to court when you have not given them the opportunity.
Remember, the disconnect is between practitioners and hospital administrators. There is a complete disconnect. Hospital administrators are guided by the lawyers,
Yes.
and what the legal teams are telling them, they are asking us to follow that. वो कहते हैं नहीं जी ये applicable नहीं है. That is their
So
interpretation.
we may have the same situation here also.
Let's see.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, friends. Welcome to this session on intensivist. We had a breakaway session where some of you were there, and we did identify certain issues which are very important for intensivists. Please understand, this is not a regular CME where we are going to discuss something. This is a forum where we will try to find out the gaps in law and try to find out a solution. You, while discharging your duty every day, you come across problems where you find either law is not sufficient or the legal protection that is required is not there. We held a pre-NCML session on intensivist around a month back, and some issues were identified. So today in your discussions, we will try to first discuss those issues which have been identified. We'll try to come to some solution. Please understand, we have 2 advocate colleagues here who will just ensure, Advocate Yogendra Singh and Advocate RJ Singh, who will just ensure that your discussions remain within the 4 parameters of law. You are not an expert in law. So wherever you need legal help, legal expertise, they are there to help you. Please be sure with what you are going to comment, because we are going to video record it. We are going to put it on social media. And there's one more thing. Are you Anirban Humchodri?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. F.E. Udwadia is not there, right? I think we should remove it. Dr. Ambumani Ramados is coming to join this session. He is the former Union Health Minister. He is still the Member of Parliament. And amongst all the 7 sessions that are happening here, he was very clear, I want to attend the intensivist session. So maybe in the next 10 minutes he would be joining you. All the best and go ahead. Yogendra, please.
Thank you. Taking the cue from Mr. Bajpai, I would like to request you all as doctors to start up this event with the difficulties, basic difficulties as an intensivist, which are faced by, especially while treating the terminally ill patients, and thereafter we can move our discussions. Thank you.
So, you want the introduction first or should we?
No, please, introduction first.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
please.
Amit Mandal and I'm from Fortis Hospital, Mohali, and I'm here as an intensivist.
Dr. Jinil Shah, I'm from Narayana, Ahmedabad. I'm working as a intensivist and anesthetist.
I'm Advocate RJ Singh, practicing in High Court.
I'm Dr. Anirban Humchodri, Professor and ICU in charge of GV Pant Hospital, Delhi.
I'm Dr. Pankaj Anand. I'm practicing intensive care at Manipal Hospital, Jaipur.
I'm Dr. Batna Prakash Gandhiraj, and I am consultant intensivist from Apollo Hospital, Mumbai.
I'm Dr. Rajesh Pandey. I'm the Director, Critical Care, VLK Center for Critical Care, the hospital in VLK Super Specialty Hospital in Delhi.
I'm Dr. Sunil Garg, a senior consultant in Max Super Specialty Hospital, Saket.
Morning, I'm Dr. Chanakeshwar from Bangalore, Ramaya Hospital. I am a consultant and in charge of ICU.
Thank you. So I request Dr. Mandal to begin this session.
So, right, it's a constant problem that we have in our, when we especially deal with terminal patients, is when you've been treating them for a period of time and we've seen one organ dysfunction after the other to a point that they are not likely to recover anymore. Based on scientific knowledge, that's our assessment at that point of time. Right? And that is the time that we start opening the discussion on regards to the end of life discussions that we regularly hold with our patients subsequently. So we try and involve all the decision makers and all the people involved with such a patient. But the conflict appears from the administrator side. Every hospital administrator puts it across straightforwardly that you're not supposed to be discussing all these things and end of life issues. And at that point of time, we should offer the patient to take the patient home, the family members to take the patient home. So we end up giving lamas in certain situations. Yes, we do take a lot of end of life decisions where the family there's a uniformity in the family, all the decision makers are present. It's a clear-cut discussion on the paper, black and white. We've recently started in the last 2 years' time, we've started video recording all our counseling sessions that we do with our family members, patient family members. And it's not a decision that is taken at one time, it is taken over a period of time after multiple discussions have happened. There's always, whenever there's an accreditation program or an accreditation check that happens, whether it be it NABS or whether it be JCI, international relations, we've always been told by administrators not to discuss this, not to say this in the open. Whereas our paperwork, our file work is always complete. Right? So section of the file, they'll find that there's people discussions happen and there is an event that happens. There are certain things that we do, there are certain things that we don't. Our main conflict is appears that administrator says something else. Clinically, we need to do something else. Because that's the request. It's from the family members. At the end of the time, after having done everything, when we tell the family you need to take the patient home for the final time, they feel as we've cheated them. So that's where our major conflict probably is.
One very important point which Dr. Mandal made. Firstly, concept of video recording all the discussions saves the doctors from any future allegations, if any. As Mr. Mandal also said, the minute they ask the patients or the relatives to take them home, and when no further treatments are possible anymore, in the end of life situation, they treat doctors and they look up to doctors as if they have not done justice to their work. And they are just trying to make money, and after they have pulled enough cash from their family members, now they are trying to shut them up. So I would like to know your thoughts, Dr. Pandey, on that issue.
See, there are situations that we face. One is where it's a clear-cut terminally ill patient. The family understands that it is a terminal cancer or a terminal illness where the outcome is dismal and everybody is clear about it. One situation they say, no, continue doing everything. Until he is dead, continue doing everything actively. That is one situation where we feel, nothing active should be done. Comfort care, palliative care should be given, but the family is insisting that do everything actively. That's one area. Second area is where, patient can improve. It's not a terminal situation. Again, I'm mixing up a couple of issues. Family says we don't have the money, so please withdraw or we want to take him home. Whereas the medical team knows very well that this guy, given 4 or 5 more days, he will improve. The disease is reversible, the condition is reversible. So that's one dilemma that we face because families insisted, no, we don't want to continue. Many times it happens when there are elderly, family members involved. The youngsters don't want to spend money, so they say, no, nothing, we don't want, there's suffering in this and that. So that's another situation. And the third dimension is, there is a conflict between the clinicians and the hospital administrators, which Amit has pointed out. So all hospitals have their medical legal teams. They are guided by their opinion. So as of now, the opinion, at least in my hospital, is that end of life care is not legally valid in India, so the doctor should not practice it. The ground realities are different. We are practicing it, and there There is another change that I have seen. The hospital has made a new form which says denial of treatment form. So denial of treatment is good if I am not initiated. I mean, for withholding it is good. For withdrawing, it doesn't help me. So these are the conflicts that we face. Now, where should we go? We are doing it. We are doing it. Many times we record in the discussions, but if the file...
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I would like to introduce Dr. Anbomani Ramados, former Union Health Minister.
I'm sorry to be late.
No, please.
Sir, please continue.
So these are the situations where we feel, we don't know what we should do. Many times we are documenting, if the file goes to the MS, he is immediately calling us and, why are you doing this? This is against the hospital, the legal mandate given to us. So these are the situations. I do not know, NEBH was silent on this. We have asked this NEBH also to clarify the issues, but they themselves are not clear. So the situation is not very clear to us.
If I may request, I'm sorry to interrupt, if I may request Dr. Pandey to recap again for Mr. Ramados, now that he is here, he can put some light.
So we were discussing a couple of issues that we face as physicians in the ICU. So Dr. Mangal initiated the discussion. He's from Fortis Mohali, I am from Delhi Hospital. One situation I said is where we feel the patient can improve, but the family says we have run out of money, or they don't want to spend on the elderly parents or elderly family members. They want to withdraw and they want to take away. Second is where the patient is terminally ill, terminal cancer, widespread metastasis. We know that patient needs comfort care, palliative care, but the family says do everything, all active interventions to be done. We don't know how to convince them. And third is a real terminally ill patient where nothing can be done and family requests for a withdrawal. The hospital authorities, the medical superintendent says that it is not allowed. Our medical legal team has advised us not to do it. So these are the dilemmas that we face.
No, can I add something?
Please.
Since in a government hospital, I'm from GV Pant. GV Pant is a government, is a medical college. Every day I'm getting at least 10 to 15 requests in my ICU from terminally ill patients from most of the corporate hospitals in Delhi. Just securing falling कि किसी भी तरीके से एक बेड दे दीजिए because we can't bear the cost. So one, the cost is the most compelling factor to the patient's relatives, terminal or non-terminal, because they can't bear. In terminal patients, there is one issue that after suppose they come in, that is one of the grievances that if this terminal, then why were we not informed early enough so that we did not waste, so that we did not spend up so much of money, that we have stayed in max for 7 days or 6 days and we have lost this much of money. It could have been reduced if we were told on day one that it is a terminally ill patient. So which diseases it is possible to speculate on day one is again a matter of controversy because every physician wants to give a try. But probably if a terminally ill patient is counseled at an early stage, right from the time of admission or immediately after a day or two, so probably that will settle down a bit of their financial issues.
What problem actually we are facing, as Dr. Pandey has rightly stated, we are running 36 bedded ICU in Max Hospital, Saket, Delhi. So out of that, 12 beds are for oncomedical. So purely onco ICU. So a lot of patients we got of terminal metastatic cancer disease in and out of hospital in last few months. On day one, like patient comes to the ICU and we tell them, the family, that please don't intubate, whatever, not initiate too many things. That. So what happens actually? The problem is, first problem is the panel patients. So very difficult to handle. They want everything to be done till the patient die in the ICU only. So majority of patients don't take majority of patient attendance. Second issue, as Dr. Pandey has stated, that even if we ask for the withholding or withdrawal of supports, the hospital problem is too much. like the management problems, they say no, you cannot do that. You cannot practice this passive euthanasia or whatever, like withholding or withdrawal of treatments. If we go by the guidelines, if we go by the Law Commission of India 2012, passive euthanasia, a relook draft sort of, so it still clearly states that it's legal till some legislation comes into the system. So if we are following our ethical guidelines, like just autonomy, non-mal beneficence, and this justice, and so the problem is management to us.
I would like to add this, especially with what they call the credit patients. Very often thing you tell them that we are not doing actually anything and it's not going to be approved. The major problem with them is, sir, what will I do at home, right? And that actually we end up spending a lot of resources on patients who are almost DNR. Secondly, the word DNR is a bit fuzzy because most of the administrators are very scared. First thing they'll say, sir, this is our policy does not include DNR because this is illegal. So I think that needs a real clarity on the part of policymakers.
No, even if you go to the rooms to resuscitate a patient, there is a code below announced. We go, then attendant say, please don't resuscitate. We don't want our patient to resuscitate. It's okay. We come back. Then there is a code below form comes to us. Like, please fill the form. Why? I have not done any resuscitation. No, you have to fill the form. I have not given any adrenaline. I have not shocked the patient, but I have to fill the form. I don't know why. DNR is a legal actually. It's ethical. It's legal. If attendants don't want my patient to do CPR, I have not to do CPR.
Let us put it in another way. Is there any law which says that every end of life patient should get chest compressions?
No.
So then we cannot equate it to a law that there is no DNR existing.
More or less people feel that if you don't make a chest compression, you can't declare a
Yeah, you can go to the court.
So that's wrong.
Can you hear the situations in South India?
Clarify certain things. Would I believe that from there? DNR can be given by relatives because as far as I understand and what we had in plenary session is that the patient can decide, not the relative. So we don't have a policy like which we were suggesting and you were suggesting like in USA that you decide, you have a wheel kind of thing, treatment wheel.
Giving will.
It's kind of not
But in
valid.
India that is not
That's not
valid.
It is not valid. It is not valid. So we were requesting them to do it because what that day we came to know is that patient relative cannot take decisions on behalf of the patient.
That is not practical.
It's not practical.
That is possible.
Agree.
That's where the conflict is.
Yeah, that's what.
As per our understanding, if the patient is incompetent, the surrogate or the family will give consent for everything. For surgery, for everything.
Yeah, but does the law says that?
No. I'm coming to that. The last judgment that was given, Aruna Schonberg judgment, it was pertaining to, that has created a lot of problems for us. It was pertaining to one persistent vegetative state, one case. The honorable judges generalized it and they said it is the government's responsibility to look after the incompetent patients. So that includes all incompetent patients, and they say it is mandated the High Court, whatever the route they suggested. So that has created a complication. So whether the family can give on behalf of, this is a matter of life and death, you are withdrawing something. So are they competent enough? That last judgment, that's not a law, but they have included a line that until the parliament makes a law, this will be the thing. So that has created a lot of confusion.
That you have to write to them, the High Court will give
Yes,
a 3-member
yes.
committee, that member committee.
That's where the problem is.
So that is in small cities, even in big metros also it is not
Yeah,
possible.
it's not possible. Like every hospital, like your hospital would have at least 2 or 3 patients per day, kind of this kind of scenario.
No, but
You can't.
what Supreme Court suggested at that time, this was 2012, Preeti Birmani versus Aruna Schonberg case. So they have suggested that you have to move to the High Court only in 3 certain conditions. One was when the patient is brain dead and not for organ donation. Second, patient is neither dying nor living. I cannot understand what is this term.
Vegetative state.
And third is the patient who is in prolonged period of ventilations. In only these 3 conditions, if you want to withdraw the ventilator, you have to go to the High Court. Rest conditions like you don't want to intubate the patient, you don't want to do DNR or whatever, like you can proceed without going to the High Court. Another point where there are conflicts, like one family member is saying that do continue everything, and another is saying don't continue with everything, then you can go to the High Courts. So otherwise the judgment was very clear. Like rest all the conditions you can decide whatever. If you are
Even
in
in
a
those
panel.
three conditions, you will have at least 50 patients in each
Yeah.
place who will
It's not
file a.
possible daily to go to the
Yes,
ICU.
Who will go to the
The Shanbag's case might be an isolated incident. You cannot take that as the
Gold standard.
the gold standard and go on that. See, the advance directive, or like what they call in India as a living will, is something which says how you want to be treated when you become sick.
That
Let's
is
say after
that is
62
not
years-
valid in India.
No, that's
Not
also
as
why.
well.
That's why
That's why
listen,
we
one
want
second.
to have a
Let
law
me tell you,
on
why
that.
can't we have it? That's why it's not valid. Why can't we have it? Why can't we make a law?
Yes.
Let people decide when they are 55, 60 years. See, death is inevitable. All of us accept. Everyone in this hall is going to die someday. So you want to decide how you want to decide. We are discussing just now in breakfast. We can decide how you want to die. Whether you want a ventilator, whether a person should be done CPR, who among your relatives has to take a decision. Those things can be made very clear in advance directive. And the patient, when he comes to the ICU, the relatives can say, he has an advance directive, they produce an advance directive to you. So go by that, like it's resolved. But that won't be the solution of all these onco cases. And onco cases, see, onco, once it comes over, some relative might want him to survive, some does not want. And he might not be in the right state of mind to take a decision. Advance directive has to be done by a sane person who is psychologically stable. That's what I would say. Or mentally, who cannot be called mentally unfit, who is fit.
But are advanced directives and living will possible alternatives in country like India?
Why not?
That is
Tell me
the
what are the
Okay,
difficulties?
I
Are
strongly
these issues
disagree.
going to be discussed by the government when they are bringing out that passive euthanasia, whatever law? Are they included?
I like to differ with doctor.
Yeah, sure.
I think clarify a little bit. See, I'm Dr. Anbumani Ramdas, former minister and currently a member of parliament as well. See, there are a couple of overall issues here. In fact, Chenakeshwar said that right to, there's nothing called right to die, there's only called right to live. So that's again an issue which needs to be addressed. In 2006, this issue came up when I was minister at the time. And I was wanting for a law, but at that time, India was not ready. That is exactly 10 years before. And then I said, let there be lots of deliberation throughout the country, and I asked the MCI, IMA and all the other bodies to go out and give me a lot of deliberations. But then it didn't proceed further till about the Aruna case came up, then the Supreme Court in 2011, I think. They have that specific case, right? And a concept called like an assisted suicide. So now the issue about suicide. So now, all these years, suicide was a criminal act now, till recently. So last month in Parliament, the Mental Health Bill Amendment Act was passed, whereas we have decriminalized suicide. So we have gone forward. In fact, this is which was much needed for the country. A person committing suicide is, I don't want to relate between, but there is a relation between both these issues. So he is in depression, and then again you make it a criminal act, and again you put it. So we had been, in fact, I was personally wanting this to be decriminalized, suicide to be decriminalized, and good thing it happened. It has happened. So that is a little related to assisted suicide as well. So today we need a comprehensive act. We have a judgment by the Supreme Court. We don't have an act. And this is by case issues. We have to get whether it is a competent patient or incompetent patient. Competent, again, the authorities, then incompetent, go to the court. We have to go about these things. Definitely we need an act. And in fact, the government also has proposed one. And I think today it has been deliberated, and we need to make a lot more noise on this issue. A lot more deliberations are needed, and in fact, Law Commission earlier has also given a recommendation. This is a good recommendation. But everything pertaining to only passive euthanasia. There's nothing called active here. So all the recommendations the Government of India, the Law Commission has given is about only assisted suicide. There's no active euthanasia. When say active in sense like in Netherlands or Belgium or Luxembourg, you don't have that issue. But I think I don't know whether India is ready for that. Today,
So the very concept of assisted suicide is wrong. It is a misnomer and it should not be used.
Yeah, the word itself is
passive
something.
euthanasia.
The word itself is something.
Because postponement of death and assistance of suicide are totally different issues. Here we are only postponing death. Death is, we know that death is not going to happen tomorrow, but okay, instead of tomorrow, let it be on Sunday. Everyone will be free. So this is a postponement of death, and this is adding to the work of everything, for the physician, for the patient's relatives, cost, society, hospital, everything. So that should not be linked with any form of euthanasia where you do something, whether actively or passively, to facilitate it. To facilitation of death is different, and postponement or prolongation of death is a different issue.
Yeah, that's the only legal recommendation the government has given.
Yes.
Withdrawal of the support system. That's the only thing which would be. That's the only recommendation which the government is going to give, and that needs to be. Other things there are the voluntary and then the involuntary and all the other issues there. But I don't think that's my perception. Is India is not ready for that. We have another religious issues as well. The Muslim religion doesn't, and the Christian faith also, the Sikhs also. So all these issues also it's there. Like. So, but I think the government is on a good track, but it needs to be expedited because there are related issues between the Organ Donation Act as well as this issue. So a lot of, and then all the other issues are there. It's a comprehensive problem because in India we have hundreds of thousands of people wanting organs, and we have thousands of people willing to give, but there's no mid path here, so that facilitates that. So that is a huge problem. In fact, at that time I had brought in amendments to that, and I said that we had increased the blood relatives. Earlier it was the father, mother, and all that. I said add on cousins and first cousins and all these things, so that there are issues like kidney problems. See, every year nearly about 200,000 people want a kidney, but the amount of going is about 5,000 or something. It's always that. So there are demand is huge, supply is very very minimal, and to have to rub out all these issues about the legality. I'm sure I'm here to talk about both ways, like, not only for doctors but as well as the patients, consumers, and as well. So that we have to keep in mind on that. So
the issue that I raised about some of the some of my friends highlighted panel patients. Now these panel patients, the government of India is paying, or the state government is paying. So they are the families. It's a burden to the government of India. It's the burden to the taxpayer because they would not like to take that patient home or withdraw the treatment. So that is also a relevant issue.
I don't know how practical it is, but many a times we discuss if it is possible within the framework of the system that perhaps a 5% or 10% of that payment, if possible, could be made, because I have seen pretty affordable patients just because they are getting a facility and the patient is almost DNR. They don't want to take because who goes and takes care of, because at home they won't get these facilities, they have to pay up front. So they keep them there, and it actually adds not just a burden to the exchequer, but the microbiological resistant load that we get is huge.
No, it denies
Especially
the
especially
such patients are the CGHS and the ECHS patients. They just stay there and we tell them it's not going to improve, he's going to die. They said let him die, let him stay in the hospital and die. So
they don't want any problems for that.
They have retired long time ago, sir.
They go
have
home.
retired like 5 years, 10 years ago.
Leave them and they go home.
Family will be very well.
The government is paying for them. So
Government is paying, they don't want to do anything. They just at least make such people pay at least 10 or 20% of the total bill. They bear it, or the burden on the government will come down.
Despite of repeated counseling 1 hour daily, they say, okay, Dr. Sapan,
But how many such patients?
lot of
One thing is I'm not against the defense people, but especially the defense guys, they come with alcoholic problems.
because the CGHS just actually passed notifications that whether you want to take, if you want to take CGHS, take whole hospital, no branches wise distribution नहीं है. जैसे पहले मैच सके 30 ब्लॉक में केवल कार्डियोलॉजी और ऑन्कोलॉजी था, मेडिसिन वगैरह नहीं था. Now they said either withdraw cardiology, oncology or take all the branches. So now medicine, gastro, everything is coming in CGH.
And the worst part is, unfortunately, we work in private hospital, and there's somebody who audits that, and he says, sir, the culture report was not, because they also know that this patient is here for 1.5 months, the bill has gone to 10 lakhs, and is not improving, so they sort of get angry with us that we are doing something wrong. So we need more transparency.
As a medical body, what we would look forward to in terms of solutions. One is, as a society, we do not want to talk about death. Abroad, if you look at death, they have chopped out everything. It becomes easy for the next generation to follow, simultaneously. For us, it becomes, we take it on our, and most of the times we've seen emotions playing more than scientific logic or ground logic. So that's where the disconnect happens in the society.
We talk about everything except it.
Yeah. So what we would look forward from all this time and effort that is going is basically look at, as he says, the right to, at least the living will, where we discuss, as Sir also said, that we have a right to live, but we do not have a concept of right to die. So that needs to be addressed. Second, in terms of the so-called the panel patients, that they are a major burden onto us. And when we refuse such patients, when we are looking at an 80-year-old with organ failures already on for example, a dialysis patient on organ support, they come in with a sick state. When we refuse the admission, the government mechanism works against the private hospitals. So there has to be clear-cut distinction where to draw a line. I'll give you an example, brief example of a young patient, of a young individual who had an accident, an army recruit in Canada, an Indian origin, was brain dead after she survived. They had a spinal injury. That patient family wanted to continue treatment. The Canadian hospital and the government fought against them. The Canadian government lost. There was a military airport flight that was taken off from Canada. They came down to Mohali for treatment because the family wanted it. They did not want to continue the treatment. The law in that country was so strict that the patient was refused treatment. Family fought and they came down to India. Today, after spending 1.5 months, they are now at a home setting on nursing care on the ventilator. So, you need to draw a line. There is no point trying to, ventilate a brain dead patient or a brain dysfunction patient who is unlikely to recover. So we need guidelines, at least from the government setup also. Because as everybody said, there is somebody else who is being denied care. Just because the family do not want to take the patient and care from at their own expense, because the government doesn't pay for out of the hospital expenses, it is by the patient's individual's own pocket. So we need, one is the living rights, the right to die, one is the living will, one is in terms of guidelines set and where to draw a line for the patients who are getting free treatment from the government mechanisms. Fourth is, if we have a structured program, we all, as per the guidelines of the Indian Society and the Indian Palliative Medicine, we have a very beautiful structured guideline which is published in the international journals, where we all seem to be following, where we've talked about uniformity or consensus amongst the medical people treating for the patient, where there is a futility of treatment being charted down, physiological futility of care, where we look at given the options, given the legality situations, and what we will be doing, what we will not be doing. If you are following a structured program, I don't think there should be a reason why such decisions should be denied. So these are the things that we would probably be looking forward for out of this consensus meetings.
Talking of the letter of the law, the word suicide always scares people. Good term would be allowing natural death.
Correct.
That is a very
and the living will can clarify whether the patient can go on supports with inotropes, get CPR, get ventilator, what form of ventilation. So have a clear-cut picture what he wants and what he does not want. So that as long as the legal system understands and it is done in an earlier way, it makes life easier for everybody.
And it doesn't matter, religion, for example, Sir did said Sikhism, but we've had a lot of patients from who belong to Sikhs actually taking the end of life discussions. We have not ventilated a patient with end stage interstitial lung disease who was gradually deteriorating over the years. We've discussed this, we've documented it, we've had video counseling. The patient was not ventilated and was allowed to die naturally in the hospital setting. So the family, believe me, the family It is not that nobody want to take care of their father. This is a different situation. They kept thanking us for allowing them to spend their last moments with their father, allowing him to die with dignity. That is the best message that a patient can, family member can give back to us. And had I ventilated that patient, if I had drawn the administrator's line, I said I need to ventilate this patient, I would have been abused. And that has happened. And we've taken that on camera and we have said we do not want to take this decision because of the administration rule. We've actually had abuses being given and we've captured that on the video camera also.
Again, this is a very important point. The rights of a physician with the hospital, a private hospital, and rights of a private hospital. I mean, many times we find conflict with the government agencies, media portraying them in bad light. So what should we do? Like this particular conflict, where the physician wants to do something else and the hospital is forcing him to do some, in a different way. So what is the legal situation and what should a physician do? That I think we need to be informed about it.
Dr. Pandey made a passing remark.
Go through this bill. I don't know if we have gone through this bill. The medical treatment of terminally ill patients, protection of patients and medical practitioners. I think we, the committee here, needs to extensively go through this and then for both patients as well as the practitioners' safety and both the interests should be in this. I feel that this is a fairly good bill. And I think most of the concerns are addressed in this bill. I think
it was divided in 2006, sir?
Sorry, no, this is the latest one. This is the latest one, and it is. So there's enough of cushioning, protection, and all these things, both ways.
It was after the draft of that Law Commission of India?
Yeah, Law Commission, based on the Law Commission.
Okay, this came in 2012, on draft by Law Commission.
And this was in 2016.
Right.
So if you, I can have a copy to share it. So this is something which now needs to be done. And and also we have another, which has been, I said, suicide has been decriminalized. So it is added more protection to doctors as well as the patients as well. So if after your deliberations, if there are some more concerns of you, you could let me know about it, and I could also take up this issue. As a parliamentarian, I could take it up with the committees as well, the ministry, the health ministry, and so it will be helpful both ways.
One important issue, Dr. Pandey made a slight reference to while he was referring to panel patients. We understand when there are subsidized patients, they try to take additional advantage of those benefits. But at times there are patients who do not require subsidy, but because the family member is terminally ill, other family members just abandon the patient. In that situation, a doctor is not supposed to withdraw or withhold the support, life support. And what happens to the cost, which could otherwise have been utilized for a patient for better treatment. So I believe this area, which you made a slight reference to, needs to be explored a bit more in this bill.
Yes, that is a little contentious issue about it.
Yes.
The cost and then the patients will to abandoning him and then you don't know what to do here. Whether to let go or not.
Yes. This issue was raised time and again by the doctors in various discussions. So I thought.
But I think, sir, as a parliamentarian, you could probably fight for because believe me, sir, when these bills when they are going to 15 lakhs, 10 lakhs, there is an administrator who's looking into these bills and look at, as he says, there was no culture report yet you treated with antibiotics. So they're trying to slash the hospital ends up losing a lot of money. So rather than staying in a grey area, if a clear cut, if these endpoints have been received and there is a structured program, why not withdraw the life support as is happening in the Western world? So every treatment, as Dr. Gunjan also mentioned, that just because patient has crashed in the hospital setting should not get a chest compression. So there should be a way that every patient who comes into the hospital, if there is a futility of care being taken, structurally addressed to, there should be a stoppage of treatment at some point in time, no matter which panel or paying patient or a panel patient that belongs to.
if you can have a
These
structure.
are, I think, very difficult decisions. I mean,
No, it
defining
will require a
endpoints of
committee.
treatment
It
would
will
be
Depends
require
very
a
on the
committee.
individual,
Yeah.
depends on case, depends on.
Because the family says they're willing to pay for anything, not.
You can't take a ban decision for.
It's very difficult to give
On case by case, you have
blanket
to-
rule is very difficult.
But can we have something like a committee in the hospital which includes 3 or 4 doctors and 1 administrator?
That's how
That's
that's
how
how
it is.
all these are addressed here. The committee, so the responsibility of the individual is
Not be
going
on
to be there.
individual.
So the committee, and then we have another, a state level committee is there. So is that it can be addressed like, and for the incompetent
So
patient,
that
like
is
the
for
court.
end of life care. We are talking of certain situations where the patient has come in a real bad state. And you think
Futility
that
of treatment.
Futility of the treatment is justified or not.
That is not
Yeah,
addressed.
and see, one more thing which is happening with the, like we in Gujarat has Mukhyamantri Amrutam Yojana coined by this thing. And I'm working in a cities organization which runs on a lot of this kind of schemes. We have a issue like when we accept the patient, like suppose we are now getting the patients who've been having a problem since last 8-9 years, but they didn't have the money. Now they have got this card and then they are coming for the treatment. Now they are poor LVs undergoing CABGs or CABGs with valve replacement or something like that. It itself is a very high risk surgery. They probably will have some create issues and perioperative, they may go into renal dysfunction or neurological issues. And then the complication sets in, and then you have to treat that also. So we don't have that kind of again the added cost, and the corporate always tries to find out that where they are losing the money. We have a patient who can be survived, but because of the cost, there will be intense pressure on the doctors, whether to treat or half treatment goes, patient actually deteriorates, and we feel guilty for ourselves.
And I don't think there's nothing much because case by case, patient by case, patient by
No, but I mean something on those.
No, sir, but what he is telling is a fact, because even in corporate, I remember one of our colleagues, intensivist, whose patient was insured, and because he had discussed the end of life, before the patient had that 10 lakh or 15 lakh, patient had probably the billing was still 5 lakh or 6 lakh. He was abused by the director of that hospital that you could have done it after his
In that the
quota
doctor
was
is getting, the doctor is getting abused from both from the government also and from the administrator also. So you feel that I did something which I should have not done, and then it percolates to the other patient where we find that there is a bit of risky. We deny treatment to those patients, and again then they will go and complain to the government that these people are denying under this card, and then it becomes so tricky. Even the issue with
let me simplify this issue. What basically it means is physicians are trying to treat a patient. Hospital says because of cost or non-payment, don't treat them. So where do we stand? I mean, as a physician, we know the patient will improve, we have to treat. So that's the dilemma.
there is a fair chance of giving to them. Right?
no, but patient can't pay.
Patient can't pay.
All private hospitals now make their patients OPD billing. If there has been pending, OPD billing means they have to pay upfront for their investigations, for their medicines, and then the treatment will continue. So if the patient is prescribed 10 medicines, including 2 antibiotics, and those drugs are not available, I mean, what are we supposed to do? Because everything is entered in the case file, so medicine not given. Now, what is the reason? Who is liable? There is a fear factor here among the physicians and the nurses also.
This point was raised, as in the rights of physician vis-a-vis the rights of hospitals. What happens in the situation of conflicts between the opinions of the two? This needs to be deliberated as
That
well.
too again, what government sponsored patients, can they have some some exclusion or some this thing that beyond this that it has to be said between the government and the patient, something like that.
I don't
Because see,
Complication
is part. Even the
easy
central
way
line.
out would be that a particular percentage, 4-5% of the patients.
Something like
No,
that. See,
instead of
even if
that-
the central line is not, you can't say that it is 100% non-complication free procedure, right?
I'll give you the example of France. In France, emergency treatment is all free. But for non-emergency, the citizens have to buy an insurance. I think it is 40-60, 40% or 30-70. Emergency government will do everything free of cost.
So,
So
we are
something-
talking
Emergency in the sense like you stabilize the patient. I mean, that's
So fast 24 hours or 48 hours.
Developed countries like in the US, there's an act on that, saying that if a patient on emergency has to be treated in any hospital, if they refuse saying that, then the committee will go into and they can arrest the doctor. So there is an act in the US, so they have to stabilize and you can't turn away. Even in India, you have a Clinical Establishment Act, and there is a clause in that act which says that patients has to be treated on an emergency. Nobody could be refused. The Apollos or any hospitals can't refuse. But then this is not being known in a big way out there. In fact, this clause, I was the one who had brought
No, so there it is slightly different. Say somebody who has a CAD is planned for CABG, there he is not covered by the government. He is 30/70 or 40/60 based on the insurance. If he has an acute MI, he is admitted and an urgent bypass is required. That's for free. That's the government's paid. Yeah, that's what they.
Dr. Pandit, this is the government set in the CGHs, ICCUs. They've all paid some amount per month from their salary towards the medical insurances. So they are actually buying a medical insurance from the government of India for their security when in requirement, even post-retirement. So that they've already bought. What we should probably look for is a structured program where you can, talk about futility of care. Otherwise, there is no end till the death.
So we need to define the boundaries of that care,
Yes.
the insurance care that they are buying.
Yes.
from the government.
Yes, see, there are state insurance. Each state has got its own insurance. Like in Tamil Nadu, we have the Chief Minister Insurance Scheme. We have a limitation of about $1.5 lakh. $1.5 lakh for some surgeries. So that is a different case then. But then on a CGHS is different. I mean, you can go on and on, and if there's according to CGHS that issue, a patient could be taken out of the country as well for treatment, even at the cost of 50 lakhs. So that is also there. Even there's no facilities here, but whatever here. So that there's no limitation for CGHS per se. And they say that government, we are working with the government all our life, and then we need these things. But then, so there are other issues like
CGHS is that way, it's very fair. When you ask for extension and all those, they usually gives a lot of flexibility. Talking of the other scheme patients.
That's why I said the other schemes, there's a limitation in that. Like each state has got its own scheme. And so they have a limitation for that scheme.
But can we, as you're passing GST, can we have one law for one India? Why we should have a different?
Each state.
See, if you putting a tax.
State is a health.
See,
Health is a state issue.
Health is a state issue, and some issues are concurrent.
That can also be changed, as long as previously also the tax was a state issue, and now it has been changed. This can also be
They'll
changed.
not let anything.
The problem about our country is where the government facilities are only 25%. And private facilities are 75%.
So that's again.
Spending again the same. The government spending only 0.9 of GDP.
No, again, that's what also I'm saying. We have a limited reserve. We are not a country like a France or USA where we have a lot of money to waste on the citizen. We, as you rightly said, we can rather allow them to die and take that organ to somebody who is really going to be helpful into the society. So, and at the same time, we can cut down the cost and taxpayers' money we can save. So, a lot of things can be easily made. I mean, I don't think.
Yes, I mean, it could be.
I think it stems from a fear amongst the lawmakers that many of the attenders or the patients, attendees might take advantage of this. I mean, if they don't want to serve, they might, just go. That is the reason they are not allowing the attendants to take a decision as far as that's applied.
So that's what the honorable judges mentioned in their
Yes.
judgment.
Yeah.
They said there are doctors and there are doctors who would do anything for money. There are family members who would do anything for property, land, money. So they said no, we can't allow them to decide for the incompetent patient. So it's not that it's a simple. It's not a very simple issue.
All we should probably look forward to is a structured program.
And a very objective.
And an objective thing. Even the bill that sir is talking about, I'll tell you there are, I think, requirements where 5 doctors need to come in or 3 or 4 doctors apart from the treating doctor. But problem is, unless we have a law supporting it, no other doctor would want to be signing on that document to withdraw life or take a call cell.
Yes,
So everything is probably going to be interlinked. we need to have, probably a situation where the doctor, when he signs on this, when he's a part of the team, doesn't feel everybody's scared that somebody might challenge me tomorrow in the court of law. That is the biggest scare, and that is why even if this bill passes through, most of the clinicians will be refusing to sign. Today, believe me, you cannot get two neurologists on board to talk about a brain death or organ donation. They
Now,
simply
now,
but at least
now,
we
now,
have
why
objective
why
parameters.
change actually? If you don't have neurologist, you can take intensivist. If you don't have neurosurgeon, you can ask the
The
anesthesiologist.
problem is, I'll tell you,
2014,
I'll tell you the problem is, for example, I am at Mohali. The brain dead committee, we've been asking for a brain dead committee. People have refused from Chandigarh PGI, people have refused from Patiala, people have refused from Ludhiana. It is because they do not want to take that call and these are from, you will have to have somebody from the government institution. We are a private organization, we could be motivated and biased in taking a certain call. So you need unbiased clinicians.
No, you can have your own.
You can have
They
your
have not given it to
Yes, I'm
us.
sorry.
They have not given it to us.
No boss, why is?
At least
We
Why
have
is
our
that?
own brain death certification
That
committee.
is
There's
going to
no-
be discussed in the
you
other-
you
No, no,
don't need
but it
anyone
is
else.
clear now. That
No,
is
it's
not-
not-
You can
it's not for
form
you.
have your own committee.
You can
And
form
in
your-
fact, boss, the FOAs came in 1994 and in 2014 they have actually made some changes. But like neurologists not available everywhere, you can take
We have
intensive.
3 neurologists on board, full timers. The Punjab government has still not given us a.
This is not a problem for us.
That's the state government.
That's the state
They have-
government issue.
Again, they have to take it.
Certifying is not an issue.
Yes.
People refusing to donate is an issue that we need to address. The NATO has made it even simpler, so we are talking to them directly. So we don't face this issue. We have our
Yeah,
own
but then, so
certification
the point
committee.
is that only the brain death program today is successful because we have objective parameters to define that this is brain death.
Correct.
To objective parameters to define fidelity of care is very difficult.
Yes,
Yes.
that is the main thing that we are sitting here.
Because Tamil Nadu has got the maximum brain dead.
Yes, yes.
Most likely state.
We have a lot of progressive things going on there.
No, even for medical legal cases, things are very simple
Very
now,
simple,
so
yes.
nobody can.
What I'm
refuse.
trying to say is just like we in a terminal ill patient, you would define physiological fertility. The same thing could be defined by the government institute for their set of patients. Today, just like if we are saying that once the law comes in, we will use this. Tomorrow, if the CGHS or ECHS, whichever panel that is, define that this is accepted by them and one could go ahead with them. Believe me, most of the patients of these panels generally refuse to take these calls. You will find this a uniformity. One, there could always be a bias that
No,
because patients
obviously,
have
where
paid.
loopholes in law is not clear, people will take advantage of it.
Correct.
So possibly this bill that is going to come up now will clarify a lot of things. It will make it easier for us to practice end-of-life care issues. The only objection, sir, we have is to the use of word passive euthanasia. We don't want euthanasia.
No, I don't think that,
That's been taken out.
there's no words in that. I mean, I was just but there's no word in that
Taken out.
about, there's no word, even euthanasia is not there.
Because we have all written to the.
There's no word called suicide here, there's no word called euthanasia, nothing is
So
there.
this has been
It's
done.
all of life support.
This has been done by the Indian Society of Critical Medicine and the Palliative Medicine together, along with a group of lawyers and advocates.
Regarding transplantation, sir, this is a suggestion, I don't know if it's feasible. So whenever we declare brain death, person who donates organ, donates a liver, okay, this is based on an incident which happened in Karnataka. I'm from Bangalore. So this family donated everything in Mysore, and at the end of the care, the rule in Karnataka is from the time they decide to donate, they give a consent for donation, and then on the hospital takes over the place. So the family owed the hospital 5 lakhs, and they're not ready to hand over the body. After donation, see a hospital, a corporate hospital, anybody from corporate, please excuse me, I'm not against anybody, just putting across a point. So for a liver transplant, a corporate hospital charges 25 lakhs. That is a package. That's a minimum.
That's a minimal.
Liver, kidney, 5 lakhs each. So 2 kidneys, 10 lakhs. Cornea. Sometimes they do intestine, they do multi-organ. Recently there was a successful pancreas transplant. So looking at nearly pancreas and intestine. They did it recently, it was successful, sir. Nowadays they're extracting like that. Yes, and even heart, they're taking out heart. If it's a young guy, they do cardiac transplant. Cardiac transplant is even more costly. So they make at least 50 lakhs. At the end of the road, the family which donated is on the street to pay their bills.
No, that is not possible.
That is what's happened. I'm telling you, that is the rule. That is the rule. That's why I said there should be a law. From the, only the hospital takes over the bill from the time the family decides to donate.
Yes.
And they make a good profit on that.
So that's a law.
And
That's already a law.
correct. Why can't, can something be done to make the hospital bear the total expenditure, waive off the whole bill for the
When you
patient?
go to the finances, that's a little tricky part.
I know, so I'm just bring the point across here, so you.
See, then again, it'll be like bargaining and then it'll lead to other issues. So mostly the government won't involve itself into all these financial part
There'll
of
be a
it.
lot of corporate.
I know, I mean,
No,
there are
in
issues.
fact, there is a parallel session being
Just want to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
They were on the streets, so finally they took nearly
Our
5
hospital,
days.
see, the law has been very helpful. They have allowed the cost from the point he becomes a brain
Yes.
dead
Yes.
Yes.
patient
Yes.
to be borne by the recipient's families. So that's what the law allows.
Correct, let the hospital bear the previous cost. They are making profits.
That's,
You all know,
no.
you are- unless until you are
Yeah,
owner of some
they-
hospital, we know hospital is making a huge profit. Right, bottom line, they are making profit. Let them bear the expenditure, at least for 5 days or weeks. You know, and you can see in the best
Private
interest of
hospital-
family.
let me put one point.
Last point, this family which was talking about Mysore, they took nearly 5 to 7 days to settle that 5 lakh bill. The boy was some 20-year-old, he donated everything.
I
This is
understand,
what
I
happened.
understand, this is not a unique story, this is a,
It's all over India, same thing.
But the
They all
point I am
corporate.
trying to make is, private hospitals are for profit, they have to make profit.
Correct.
They have to
Make.
satisfy their, the customers and other people, the boards.
Shareholders.
So, I mean, it's not a crime to make money.
Nobody said,
So
see, help
that's-
somebody, when you make 10 lakhs, give 1 lakh to charity. That's what the.
That is what it is. You're getting sentimental about it. There has to be,
I'm getting a point across this.
No, no, no.
That's why I'm not doing anything. No, I'm not trying to.
we need to be objective about it. Whose responsibility it is to foot the bill has to be clear, right? So that nobody can cheat upon. As far as making profit is concerned, corporate hospitals are profit-making entities. There's no secret about that. So who pays that 1 lakh and did they go to get that money is another issue.
It's okay, yeah, whatever the panel decides, you take a call and put it across you.
Sir, I
Yeah,
had
that's-
a small clarification to ask the lawyer friends. Is the validity of a video recording equivalent to a written statement, written signed
Document.
document?
Not a
Need to be proved. The contents of video recording, anything which is capable of being tampered, needs to be proved.
Okay, let me illustrate on this.
Wait, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
How do you explain need to be proved?
In the sense, as Dr. Anand said, validity of video recording in the situations where the consents are given, the discussions are done, or the counseling are done. I assume these are the 3 situations you are talking about. And there are disputes amongst the family members and the doctors later on, and they say, no, we have not given any consent. And the doctor would rely on the video tape. So that is always subject matter of dispute. You can't take it on face value because the video recording
also don't take it.
yes, is subject to being tampered. It can be played around. That's what I'm
As of now, I
point
think
I
it's
was
only
raising.
the written signatures which are held valid in the court of
No,
law.
again, this is where, the point I'm trying to raise. See, the hospital wants us to ask the families to sign daily that they have been counseled and explain the condition. So they are signing it without knowing what is, why they are signing. Now, this practice versus the practice of physicians writing detailed notes what has been explained and to whom they have explained about the criticality, the condition in the case file, how these two things are different. I mean, is it mandatory that we ask the families to sign? He may or may not sign.
There are 2 different things. These are 2 different things. I don't think we should mix this up. A physician making their notes, practice notes, is irrespective and independent of informing the patient about what treatments are going on. So, as a matter of practice, in case of any future allegations which may be pointed out against the physician, it is always good to make practice notes. And that's what we discussed in the last annual convention. So far as consent and taking signatures of the family members is concerned, this is for the purpose that the family members who's been taking care of that patient in capacity as a relative should be aware of what treatment the hospital is giving to the patient. There shouldn't be any future allegations of misappropriation, that no, this line of treatment was not required, but to make money they did this. At the end of the day, what patients are doing today or the family members are doing today are accusing the doctors and the hospitals of money being a money minting machine. To prevent the doctors and the hospitals from such allegations, there is a need for the doctors to give, take signatures of the relatives and also to prepare and keep their practice notes. So they are two different, they should not be mixed.
But you feel the family, we need to take the signature from the families every day about the clinical condition?
Not every day, not every day, not
No,
every
he is
day.
actually not talking about the practice notes.
I understand.
He is making a separate additional
So we are doing,
note.
so that's, I think we are doing the same thing, but that's as a hospital requirement, that's an organization requirement.
No,
But
organizational
through-
requirement is very simple. They have a form which
I have
every day
been
they have to
explained.
sign, that has
So-
been explained to me.
But practice notes are important. In fact, I know this is being recorded, but in a situation where we are fighting in the court, the family member, a judge's family member, sitting there as a family member, has gone to the court and said that this is not my family signature. You sign on the standing on the trolley, and they've signed and gone.
That's what I'm saying.
So what is saving us is the detailed notes in the case file.
That's the point I was making, that when we are writing everything in detail, what all we have excellency, the form, hospital form where they have to sign does not have space for writing so many things.
Precisely.
So those notes will be very important.
Yes.
And are they considered legally valid, or
Yes.
they can also be disputed by the family?
No, they are subject, as you said. Everything would be disputed in court of law.
Okay.
But these are the precautionary safeguards which should be taken by every physician to prevent him or to save him from any future allegations. Nothing more you could do.
Excuse me, there are times when the relatives don't sign. And when I write down the notes, I write down the name, the
Very
relationship,
important.
and I also write down the family member has refused to sign it after I have signed everything.
Many a times it happens, he doesn't pick up your phone at 1, the patient has deteriorated, you want to inform. Nobody picks up the phone, or you say that probably the patient needs ventilation. And they said, sir, I'm coming back, I'm trying to get some other relative, and then they fizzle off. So we write down that at this hour, we were informed the need for ventilation, and they didn't respond. And if it is usually we ventilate. So is that okay?
I think this is all issue of deliberation. It has rightly been raised by having something called as living will or directive policies to be made by patients. So it could all be deliberated. Today the purpose of our discussion is what are the difficulties which are faced by intensivists. So let's.
In last 5 years or 10 years, our practice has changed drastically. Earlier, lot of simple procedures that we were doing, say intubation, putting somebody on ventilator, many such things, we were not asking for a written consent. And which is the practice in many, outside, in the advanced countries. You don't need to sign for these things. They are surprised if you inform them that you are taking all these consents. So now, for all patients where we have time, say we can wait for 1 hour, 2 hours before we finally put a tube or put them on a ventilator, we are asking the families to sign, also sign on the complications that are associated with these simple procedures. We are doing it on our own only in acute emergencies where we can't wait. So this is the change that we have.
And I believe there are many judgments on this point, that in such a situation of life and death, the professional judgment of a doctor should not be questioned. Maybe the consent is taken or not. So rightly, the practice, I believe, is we are on the right path, as a parliamentarian would agree, what consent issues are there.
I think, this needs to be deliberated, and you could go ahead with all the deliberation and give me a recommendation so that I could be a interface between the government and the doctors here as well. Plus, also again, the issues about, once again I put up the issues about this act particularly. This will again streamline a lot of issues, lot of problems doctors are facing throughout the country, and it will facilitate a lot of processes, like positive processes. So, not only this convention here, but the others also, you could give me a lot more inputs, so that it will help me as well, so that I can put it through the required process.
one more point I would add. I have not read this bill, but does it include about the assaults on doctors?
No, not
So that's again a big issue which is.
That's a law is actually medical treatment of terminally ill patients rather than.
Yeah.
That's bullying that was there will be assaults.
There's one act in Tamil Nadu which particularly says that assault on doctors. There is one separate act. Act to prohibit violence against Medicare service persons and damage or loss to property of Medicare service institutions and for matters connected therewith and incidental thereof. So this is an act passed in Tamil Nadu.
Could this be taken at the unit?
Yeah,
I don't know whether this could be, but
See, as you
What is the fines according to that act in Tamil Nadu?
I'm not.
Because right now I think everywhere it is 50,000 and 6 months of imprisonment. I had a request, it should not be 50,000, it should be more than that. At least 5 or 50, at least 5 lakhs minimum, and at least 5 years imprisonment. Because they had to have a
Let
fear.
us not stray, let us not stray what we are contemplating.
No, but as in what, our friend is there from Tamil Nadu, Madurai, so he will be able to tell that how much this has reduced the violence.
I think they are waiting away from
These are issues related to intensivists.
Next, another issue in intensive care which needs to be discussed probably, in last 5 years or 10 years, one, as intensivists, we are doing dialysis, we are doing TPI, we are doing ultrasound, we are doing trachea, which were earlier within the domains of cardiologists, nephrologists, etc. Now, if this is challenged, what would be our protection?
You have undergone training, then you should.
There is no structured training for intensivists in ultrasound or in dialysis.
Let's hear our friends' views, the lawyer friends.
That's a very wide issue. Earlier, the procedures were done by the cardiologists. Today, the radiologists do GI procedures. Intervention. So whether it is a GI or it's a radiology, so that is again a lot of issues. These are wider issues.
Usually they look it into the competency of the patient. So I can do an echo in an ICU for an ICU patient and I can document in the case sheet, but I cannot give an echo for a cardiology patient in an OP basis and I cannot give full testing.
The point Anirban is making is in US it is very well defined that you have to do so many echoes every year.
That we don't have.
Nothing is defined in India. So where are we? Because we are doing.
We just need one.
As long as there are no catastrophes, nobody challenges you. When something A happens, then only it is challenged.
I think the way that even if you look at US, the way that they practice, they even if they are the intensivists are capable of doing echoes and advising the need for dialysis. They are all taking a second opinion from the nephrologist as well as the cardiologist, just to keep them safe. And I think that is the best way to practice. Because in today's world, as he says, anything that we are writing is being challenged. So tomorrow when you do not have any competency, they will ask for the court asks the hospital, shows the competency of this doctor. There is nothing that you can show. So you will be challenged.
Sir, the difference in US and India is in terms of honesty.
That's what I'm saying.
They have written 49.
Echo has not
They will
become-
write 49.
So that's what I'm
They will
saying.
not
In
write
the
50.
Indian context, why leave yourselves to be challenged? Take an opinion and close the chapter. That's all. So I think the way that in our situation, we have an ultrasound machine. We do all ultrasonographies ourselves. But at the same time, when it is a cardiac patient, we ensure that the cardiologist is involved and at least an opinion is involved. And if there is a difference of opinion, we follow the cardiologist. So even in this case of a requirement for a dialysis, we do get the opinion of the nephrologist in, so that at least because we've been challenged by the family members of the patient. Show us your training in nephrology, show us your training in cardiology. We don't have that. Even and the hospital doesn't have a competency program. As Dr. Pandey says, there is no competency that has been, any hospital is following that. So in the court of law, I have nothing for my defense, and that is what exactly for taking the call for an end of life, we are looking for an act.
So the procedure which would have been over in 1 hour, you are ready to
No,
wait
you
for
start
12
off,
hours.
you start off.
Let me illustrate this with an example. Say, for example, CRRT. That's a very slow form of continuous dialysis that is given to critically ill patients. Lot of intensivists are doing it. Now the question comes, and there is a company that is actively promoting that intensivists should use CRRT because it should be in their domain. It's a breadwinner for the nephrologists, so they don't want to leave because they want to control everything. So within the hospital there is conflict, plus all these issues that we are just now debating, whether we are allowed, whether we have the adequate training, and if somebody drags us to a court of law that this doctor decided to do CRRT, he did not consult a nephrologist. I mean, what is our legal standing?
So again, that needs to be deliberated. We can put forth and give our objections and whatever.
Which means there is no legal standing as of
Yes.
now.
I think if a specialist is present in the hospital, you need to take the opinion.
At least an opinion.
We use ultrasound, we
What
use
do
echo.
we mean by present? Everybody is present on call?
Yeah. The
It is
court
only a
will-
phone call away.
the
But
court will-
at 1 a.m. in the morning,
You-
if
No,
you
no,
need
no,
an
no,
echo,
you do the procedure.
You start the procedure.
You should do the
You
procedure.
get the
Get it
involvement of the
rectified.
nephrologist.
Yeah.
Because how the court asks is ki show us the opinion of the nephrologist. Nephrologist, I was not concerned. I was not concerned in this particular case. Then you fall on flat because there's nothing to substantiate. You start the procedure. It's not delaying 12 hours of the need for dialysis. You go ahead with the dialysis, get the nephrologist involved as a part of the treatment. That's all. You need to be safe.
Yeah, you use as a therapeutics, you use ultrasound, echo, you do that for resuscitation, you're not going to wait. And at the end of the day, you ask your cardiologist opinion, this was the problem, you get a written report for that.
As a lawyer and an advocate, they will always challenge that. Fighting from the
Depends where they are.
They will always challenge
I
it.
think this thing has happened.
They put it very smartly. Anything can be challenged.
So that's what I'm saying.
That is the fact.
Depends which side.
I think this was done in Delhi or somewhere. The general physician or MD medicine treated a MI patient, and the court asked if there was a specialist cardiologist. Yeah, cardiologist present in your hospital, why did you take the opinion? So if there is no specialist there, then you can do whatever.
Even maybe
But you'll have to justify that I did it because the person would have died.
The court gave this
But the court
decision.
looks at it differently, sir. Court says ki if there is no specialty available, then the MBBS doctor can be the cardiologist himself. But if there is cardiologist available, then the MD cannot be a cardiologist.
That is
So-
the MD is competent enough to treat patients.
That's like answering Dr. Anirba's question ki, if there is a nephrologist on board, you have to get him involved.
The court needs to be more
Sensitized.
sensitized.
So that's why I participated in this, because with the legal situation, the judiciary needs to be sensitized.
The
Lot of issues are there.
So the final line will always be, there are doctors and doctors and doctors.
And
We can't say that. They have the right to say that. We can't
Another
say that.
similar issue, some of our friends in the specialty are using machines in a different way. I mean, that is not recommended, that's not a standard way, but they are going ahead, they're using CRRT machine, dialysis machine with an oxygenator as a mini ECMO or for carbon dioxide removal. I mean, where do we stand in the eyes
So
of the law?
that's the scientific, they won't be able to do it.
No, but-
That's purely scientific.
We can deliberate that.
That is a point that has to be deliberated amongst yourselves.
Let us not get that.
That is not recommended. So if we are doing it as a shortcut or because it's a much cheaper, thing, are we justified? I mean, where do we stand? Or will it be labeled as an adventurous?
Sir, but unless and until it is proven as wrong, you cannot contradict it.
There is no evidence. There is no evidence to support it.
There's no evidence to go against it also, right? That's what they
Absence
argue.
of
That's the point.
evidence,
Anything becoming
absence of
evidence.
evidence is not
Not
equal to
Correct.
evidence of absence.
Yes.
It is, if it is not wrong, then
You should be doing it on an LLC degree or something. I'm scared. I don't do it.
We also
So I go
Right,
strictly
right.
by
We are
what is approved and the.
It's the issue of whether you allow him to do it in your ICU or not. That is the issue. I mean,
You are
somebody
forcing
doing,
your patient, you know his financial capacity and he is unable to pay. In order to do justice so that he is not denied of the treatment, you make such amendments to your age that you are using this part from somewhere else and this part, that part from somewhere else in the way trying to.
No, this is not a defined treatment.
So case
we
reports.
diverting.
To justice with our time, I think we should
So
concentrate
case
on
reports are on the
terminally
file
ill
sometimes, no, we do something and publish, so that becomes a case
So
report.
let us concentrate to terminally ill patients and the difficulties you doctors face while treating them, so that we can recommend our.
Just take up the assault part. I think that should be a part of this one, sir, because terminally when we are announcing or discussing, as Dr. Gunjan said, we can get assaulted. That's a part of our discussion. Whenever things go wrong, they get frustrated, they get angry. Is that fine part and the punishment should be made like a capital.
Tamil Nadu punishment part is minimum 3 years, maximum 10 years.
National level, it should become same, sir. One law for the whole country.
Yes.
But that is not possible.
At least something.
Usually after the assault, they get a second assault also. In last Saturday, in medical college in Calcutta, the doctors got assaulted. Then Mamata Banerjee came and said, "You rascals, you don't treat." Okay, we have assaulted you, but you should treat. So
That's
they get a second assault.
Depends on states.
Can anything be done against this media who makes a sundry judgment against a doctor without
They make it
Yes,
Sir,
Media, you need 3 days to discuss that. 3 entire days. So you won't get anywhere. You won't go anywhere.
Yes.
Journalism has become sensationalism. There's no more journalism. We want their TRPs to.
I think in anything we just need to prove our intention. If our intention is to treat in the right way, I think we would.
And it should be documented on the file.
Yes. Whether we are doing it as a nephrologist, cardiologist, friend of life, or public forward.
The best way, this is just out of the topic, sir. The best way to practice in this current age is documentation, communication. Documentation of communication and communication of documentation. That's the best, that's what they say.
I think that's where the accreditation programs comes in, because they ask us the same questions. Have you communicated to the family? Show us the communication. Have you made a change? You made an intervention. Have you communicated to this family? And most of the time, these things which are actually challenged at the end of when the patient is actually dying, or when the patient goes to an alternative center for care because of cost of therapy. So it's the communication, breakdown of the communication is problem. I think the nutshell, I think we're probably running out of the options of what else, but I think outcomes was, that is what we
So, if you want me to cap it up.
One more issue.
Yeah.
One last issue.
Please.
Hospital has created, like I said in the beginning, a denial form. Whatever the family, if it is required medically, the family is refusing, they are asked to sign a denial form. Now, there could be many things which in a critically ill patient, say for example, ventilation, dialysis, endoscopy, and so on and so forth. So what is the legal implications of this? Does it save us from anything, or if somebody is not willing for those treatments and is refusing to sign, then what is the implication?
Sir, again, I'm not here to give any opinion, but I would like to tell you this, even this denial form is a part of a process called a safeguard consent. Like your practice note, like your consent forms, and like any other diagnosis notes and consent. So the implications of this could be tested only when it is questioned.
So the way that as a lawyer, if he is from supposing he is representing the patient, he'll say, where have you documented that my party has been told about the consequences of denial of care or denial of a particular therapy. Even that has to be documented on the file. That is the level that they are asking questions in the court of law.
And again, here the trick will be.
Solutions, and in fact, when we discussed about the Clinical Establishment Act, this was way back in 97, 98, it was deliberated, and then there were a lot of issues at the time. Like a doctor has to get the consent of the tahsildar. So that was the issue. Then we reworked it, and then we said that yes, the clinical establishment, whether the labs as well as the hospitals, we categorize hospitals into 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. Not the facility, but not the comfort level, but the facilities. That there's a lab and internship. And at then we said that we take to the district collector or the district DMO, like that, district medical officer. So that was the point. The issue which again at that time was accreditation. So if there's accreditation, And that time we said QCI and NABH and India. But then some corporate like you have the JCI and the JACO and all these institutions, where you have to have documentations. So if so this accreditation will help the hospital as well as the doctor as well to document everything. It's a formal procedure, even though it takes a lot of your time. But then you're safeguarding all that when there's accreditation going on. And I think what needs to be done is the all the system needs to be accredited. So that will be helpful for very helpful to everybody, the doctor, the hospital, the management. And that is again one suggestion where will be taken up.
Sir, one thing which may be added is that every hospital, big or small, can have an end-of-life care assessor come facilitator to decide upon or to dwell upon those patients where there is any ambiguity, or it may be made that such and such number of, like we have transplant counselors, coordinators, end-of-life assessors come
That's
facilitators.
clearly defined, that's a simple thing. Here the boundaries are not defined, so it's a very vague thing which the government
But
is trying
it will
to
be
define.
defined once
No, this is being defined, sir. There are, I think,
No, even the Law Commission of India 2012 has still got that. So they still say that the passive freeze is legal till legislation comes into the picture, provided certain safeguards are maintained. So I think like they have defined two categories of patient, one is competent, one is incompetent. So
No, but legislation is there.
legislation will
this
come to
will
the
be in the
picture when
picture
there is
or
No,
When the bill will pass,
I have my doubts because this needs a lot of initiation from the doctor community as well. So, as an individual, I could put my views there, but then the government has to take it up in a manner.
That's why
For that
usually-
pressure has to be.
usually the draft is posted on the.
No, it's not passed. Not passed.
Yeah, I think this is there.
And
You
comments
can
are
take a copy
invited.
and then
Yeah.
you can give it to everybody.
Governments has also invited suggestions.
Yeah,
Last
it
was
just
nice
passed.
enough, yeah.
Sir, that's
Yes, it was nice enough.
I have 2 points actually. When you come to the denial form, like if one child says, I want to deny this for my parents.
Oh, there is a
Another child
conflict.
may come over after 2 days and say, I never denied, how could you deny it? Or why did you not initiate ventilator 48 hours back? Again it becomes a trick.
Which check to follow.
Yes. If they're present at the same time, okay, we put it as a conflict. But then the one child who's present may not declare the other child's wish. And then it becomes a very tricky situation
we are
for the
talking
doctor.
about
Both of them, the situations are the same.
Like, he's in the US, so he'll come after 2 days.
So the problem is,
So it becomes very tricky.
we've had this in Punjab, where, the one party admits the parent and pays for the care and continues, and we presume that this is the only thing, and we do ask them, are there anybody else? Certainly after the end of life is taken or a death happens, luckily in this patient in particular happened in a neighboring hospital and the death happened, they did not take an end of life call. After a couple of days, there's a second person comes in the scene. I am the second child from the second wife, and I'm coming, I want to know my father's records. So in that situation, it becomes difficult because otherwise, whenever we take a call, we say you bring all your relatives in, and we mention that these are the relatives, including the first the spouse and then the children, and each and everyone has to be present in that conference, and that is a conference that has happened on a couple of times. So if one person is missing, we get the hint that there is probably a non-consent or not a uniformity. So we generally avoid such calls.
I believe this issue was raised and dealt by Supreme Court in its judgment that in such situations permission of the court has to be taken in case of conflict of decisions
Yes.
or in case of no consent.
No, even for passive euthanasia,
Yes.
the Supreme Court has
This
directed that
issue
you
has
have
been
to,
taken up.
if there is any conflict, but Kunjan is saying the conflict
When we are
is
not
not
aware.
today. Conflicts has arisen after 2 days.
Probably.
That is a difficult
After I
situation.
withheld ventilation and the patient is worse.
No, it is similar. He didn't know that there was another child.
Yeah.
Similarly, he didn't know that there was another wife.
But I think, the one who was, the patient was staying with the child and who was got admitted becomes the surrogate decision maker, so.
But the same person is not present every day.
No, but I think the way that it happens is that the court looks into the person who's actually paid for the care and got the patient admitted. So in the admission form, sign has got the illegal, so that becomes the legal heir to the and the
Basically, the family member under whose care the patient is.
So then it becomes the
Most of the time, new relative appears when they don't want to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
of the time.
Day 3 or day 4, somebody suddenly
Somebody will
and he'll
suddenly-
start asking you questions. Doc, what happened? And you've been counseling the entire family, 12 people.
What's that tip?
No, the best thing is you have to ask him, where were you for the last 4 days? And many times, that's not always right. We said that we actually needed blood and nobody was ready. Are you ready? Then he suddenly mesmerized.
We had a similar incident. Grandson was taking care of our elderly man. He is in one of these software companies. He travels abroad, goes for 20 days. He was with us, communicating every day. Once he goes, we had children, 3 children came in. They said they want to talk to him, take some signature. Children, no, we cannot deny. I said, okay, talk to him. During that conversation, they taken some signature. After that, this guy had gone for 15 days. After that, his family said, "Sir, why do you want to continue care? He's elderly, give up on him." They started convincing us to give up care. Okay, we said, all right, where is that guy, the other guy? I have his number even today. I have his number. Last time I was giving the same example. So this guy comes back after almost 10 days. He comes back from his foreign trip. He says, "Sir, how is my grandfather?" He's okay, he's holding on, but that's what your parent was saying, that they want to discontinue care. Parent, like children, he's a grandson. So this fellow starts the story. Sir, and he said that for some reason they were with him, it was his nature. Then he started shouting on, he said, they seems the son and the father don't get along well. So they have been sent out. So the grandson is the only guy who is taking care of the grandfather, and grandfather has made a will where all the property which belongs to him goes to the grandson. It became such a big issue. Finally, we called all the family, all the consultant hospital, had one chamber, had a biggest discussion, and we said, you discuss, decide what is right. But please leave us alone. And just that's it.
When we have a safeguard, against these issues.
We are no doctor, but this could be actually taken care of in a very preliminary stage where you fill admission form and you have a column whom should the doctor talk to in case of any decision has to be made. It will simplify things.
Because now was saying, tell me now the grandson has brought the patient, he's signed, but the son comes. So who is legally more has the right over the son?
Off the record suggestion from me. But in such situations, yes, it has to be deliberated among the doctors how they want to be protected. And
Many times the neighbor brings the patient and the family is outside.
Yes.
So then it again becomes a tricky situation.
I think the law says that whoever is with the patient at the time of admission will make that decision at that time.
At that point of time, it is the only aggressive form of therapy that should be done. End of life situation should not be disturbed.
No, but as a safeguard, what we do is, because many a times the patient is unconscious, incompetent, he cannot sign, so the money has to be withdrawn, the checks has to be written. So we have made it mandatory that such a request will be written through the medical record officer, and a bank officer will come to the hospital, and in his presence the signature or thumb impression will be taken. So we don't allow otherwise unless the bank authority is there with his ID card.
And the hospital administration.
And the hospital
And
administration.
we also go to the, we keep a photograph of all the 3 people, the family member, the bank official, and an administrator, along with the patient, standing next to the patient. We take a photograph or.
Very good, as long as it secures you. Any more issues? I think we have covered a lot of things. If you want me to recap it and see if we have missed anything. The first issue which was raised is there should be a rule, a structure, so that physicians can inform the patients, family members, on end of life things, condition of the patient, and what are the future. Second was withdrawal of life support. I would not call it euthanasia, but withdrawal of life support. Third was doctors may be allowed to refuse admissions if they know that the patient could not be cured, and those facilities could be used for the patient who actually deserve it or need it. This was the third issue. Fourth issue which was raised was of living will. What if there is a directive that a person should, during his healthy years, make a will or something saying how he is required to be treated in such situations and emergency situations. Sixth very important point, in cases of conflicts between physicians and hospitals as to decisions, what are the rights of physicians in such situations? Frequently raised bills of terminally ill patients in case of abandonment panel patients. Then the boundaries of insurance care was discussed, and again assault on doctors. We should also have a law, which point was raised. And one more point was raised, that intensivists are performing ultrasound, diagnosis, dialysis and everything, which is beyond their realm. So what is the...
not beyond their...
I mean to say... I didn't mean that beyond their realm. But for which a nephrologist or a cardiologist usually is...
They are done in interest of the patient to
Right,
save time.
right.
Because time is very precious in a
So
critical
what
patient.
are the protection for such intensivist and if this tests are...
I think there must be some difference between acute and chronic. If we need a nephrologist means CKD. For acute, I think intensivists can take decision, but how?
So it was suggested take a second opinion in such situations of a nephrologist or a cardiologist. Then
When feasible.
When feasible. This was your suggestion, which could be again considered. Denial form if the family members refuses any course of treatment. Solution was there. System should be accredited, the hospitals and proper procedures were there. And then the lastly was conflict among the family members with respect to important decisions. That one son says, no, you please follow this course of treatment and you follow the other course. What safeguards do the doctors have? Amongst them, I would request if anyone wants to add up anything.
One can add up that NABH has accreditation for hospitals, accreditation for labs, so they can add accreditation of ICUs also. Because every small ICU is there, 4-bedded, 10-bedded hospital, 5-bedded ICU. So all ICUs cannot offer the care.
And they
or
have
the cure.
accreditation for blood banks also. So why
Yeah.
not ICU?
So accreditation of ICUs.
You have emergency.
No, very valid point, Dr. Anirvan, because we have faced a lot of problems. One of my close relative was in a ICU, small in West Delhi, and I went to see the patient. He was on dopamine of 20, not of 20. There was no arterial line, there was no central line. Things were going through peripheral line. The ventilator was alarming like anything, and everybody was coming and just off the alarm sort of. So it's very difficult. Like the hospital is 100 bedded and ICU is 34 bedded. What's a mess?
Okay.
So there must be some guidelines. And the main thing is, like, we have discussed a lot of things, but rather than we have focused less on dying with dignity. Like, what things should be in the dying with dignity or passive euthanasia? Like, should we withdraw the ventilator in, or can we withdraw the NORAD, dopamine, vasopressors, inotropic supports or not? Can we withdraw ventilator? We don't want to put patient on ventilator, like this. So withdrawal and withholding. So we have discussed little bit on these issues.
I think the futility of care should be
No, still everybody actually fears. DNR, nobody wants to do. DNI, oh, how will you do? Intubate the patients. Extubate, no means. Take the patient.
Sunil, I think what they will probably have to, they may not be able to,
No, we can give some suggestion.
So that's what I'm saying. They will probably rely on the consensus guidelines by different societies coming on at a national basis or an international basis to suggest a structured way to the way forward, because this is getting very scientific. For the court, for the advocates, I don't think they'll be able to answer all that. But I think that's where they'll have to give the onus to the societies to define those lines. Otherwise,
I think it's already been defined by the Indian Association of Palliative Care and Indian Association of Critical Care.
Yeah.
So they have suggested that.
Others have to, means there should be a consensus basically.
So the point when it comes to consensus, when we talk of futility of care, how many oncologists really say that it is futility of care? So when you have a committee for a terminally ill cancer patient, and if you don't have an oncologist in it, the treating oncologist will never say that it is, futility of care.
No, Kunjan,
Till the end,
even a treating oncologist says this.
Very
The
few
management
patients.
is very fussy about this.
very few patients. The treating
Because they are
oncologist
very-
says in a very few patients.
Oncologist is the most optimal.
This is just optimistic.
He's the most optimist person till the end.
I think there is a separate group on oncology, I think. Yes, there is a separate.
But this is an excellent idea, you know, like we have a transplant committee, brain death certification committee. For end of life care issues also, it should be mandatory for the hospitals to have a group of doctors.
This point was
Committees are
raised.
fine.
I think if you look at across the country, there are very few institutes or hospitals who have a palliative department simultaneously. They have oncology, but they will not have palliation therapy going on. So I think there should be a way that every oncology department should have a palliative department. Otherwise, every patient, just like every patient who collapses gets a chest compression, every patient who enters that hospital will go into the oncology aggressive treatment.
And most deaths will occur in the ICU in the tube, even for a metastatic disease.
Unfortunately.
That is
And palliative care is not just for oncology, it's for all end of stage diseases.
Chronic
May-
medical diseases.
Maybe it's kidney, maybe it's heart, and
Fortunately, it's not very cost.
As Sir Ramadas says, I think just like there was an attempt to classify different hospitals, there should be a way of rating the different hospitals, just like the ICUs and in the blood banks and the labs. There should be a way of stratifying the different hospitals. Every hospital has an ICU, every hospital has a CCU, every hospital is anyways accredited, you just need a 25-bed facility and monitors. And
So for major oncology centers, if you're practicing oncology in the hospital, palliative care should be
I should be
mandatory.
must. That's a.
Something like that, you know, so that the focus is on palliative care.
And there must be a separate ward for the palliation, otherwise your ICU mortality goes like anything. Like
They all die in the
come to the
ICU.
ICU,
They all die in the
die.
ICU.
All right.
Is palliative care covered by insurance in your hospitals?
No, in hospital.
Yes,
in
yes.
hospital they will cover.
Not at all, not at all.
If a patient in ICU chooses palliative care, we have a palliative ward. We have a 26-bedded palliative ward. We shift the patient to palliative ward. Palliative ward charges are like around 2,500-3,000 rupees per day. Ours is quite an economical hospital. We keep the charges are quite low. Our load is quite high. So they don't charge. Until then, insurance is covered. Until they are in ICU, if they go out of the ICU to palliative care, insurance covers. So they say let the patient be in ICU. Someone has to make a policy for insurance coverage. At least they are.
So if a patient admitted to the hospital, they want admission 24 hours for admission, there is an insurance
Maybe
line.
that could be a recommendation for the lawmakers to probably think in terms of.
But it's not everywhere, I think.
It should also be under the ambit of insurance fee, no?
Probably-
Very sure she feels better about the fact there will be a young
Sunil, that is not happening in our situation is because we all
Exactly.
have a
They will
palliative
be paid more in
department.
the ICU rather than they should cover
See,
palliation and not
insurance
ICU.
is covered by IRDA. It's not a state issue. It's a national issue.
So where do you plan to utilize these suggestions for? Where do you want to discuss it or find it out?
This suggestion, let's take it in a plenary session today itself.
Okay.
We'll discuss it, elaborate it more, and put forth our recommendations to the policymakers, and take the consent of the doctors and their objections in view before making it. I think we are done with our breakaway. Any more points anyone would like to add up? Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us for the breakaway session. Yogendra Singh, Mr. Arjit Singh, again thank you for being part of this interactive session. Thank you once again.
We need to thank Sir also because
Special thanks to Mr. Ramadas for joining us.
I'd be more than happy to take up this issue.
Special thanks.
Thank you very much.
Since we understand a little more than as a doctor, you should understand a little more. It's easier for me to take this up.
And
And
somehow,
a big breakthrough is again going back, decriminalization of suicide. I don't know how important you feel, but he feels very, very important. And, then again, 377. I mean, there are lots of issues to decriminalize.
Everybody talks only about Article 21. Nobody wants to talk about, there is nothing called in the Constitution right to die.
No.
Only right to live.
So SHAD recently changed. SHAD is not, it's decriminalized now.
Health should be made a fundamental right. That is not there. It's not there in Indian Constitution.
Right to health.
Right to health should be there. So then government, it will be the government's responsibility to take care of all our health things. We charge, but then makes life easier.
Need more resource allocation, because I think these are
Huge
ideal
resources.
situations.
That's not an issue. Resource India is now a resource-rich country, so why not we?
Allocating
No,
more
but then
budget
again,
and
the
priority.
intention is not there.
Intention is not,
See,
yes.
The total spending of health in India is 6% of the GDP, out of which only 0.9 is from the government, 5.1 from the individual and private. So this is the opposite in other countries.
Roughly doubled.
All
19%.
Sri Lanka, Bangladesh is more like, that is again a problem. And GDP is increasing, leaps and bounds, but again here, health is a state subject. And some are the concurrent list. So that again, we have a problem. Some states do good, some invest more, but most of the states, they don't.
The utilization of GTP is also different actually. If you go to the Geneva, it's more focusing on diagnosing rather than treating. In the US, it's more on treating rather than diagnosing. So the Geneva concept is too good actually. Yearly assessment, everything, all the investigation also, you catch up the disease very early.
Preventive, primary.
Yeah, preventive.
Trying what you should.
Preventive and identifying early so that you can reduce.
As
The concept, there's no concept called a preventive healthcare. The concept is just not. Only you go after you get it, like then only you have to go through the hospital. So that needs a lot of noise.
I think the way that the Western world works is because part of the insurance is actually paid by the coming out of the salary of the individual, and the organization is very clear. Either you stay fit or you contribute more towards your insurance. So their way they are also motivated to keep their payouts less.
Depends on the countries.
Yes.
US has got the worst insurance.
Yes.
France has got one of the best schemes. Germany has got a good one. NHS is different. NHS is a unique scheme where 92% of the population in UK they get to NHS, and 92 is a huge percentage. But they have some of the best facilities. But most of our NHS are doctors.
They are waiting list of 6 months for cataract.
They're struggling.
They're struggling. They're very.
Because personnel, also now the stricter immigration issues and all that. They're going to suffer more because most of the personnel are doctors. They're in NHS. It's a good system.
But in the US, even the choice of antibiotic, etc., would be depend upon the tire of the patient.
The insurance.
It's the worst system that you can
It's a worse system. Yes, the worst.
Worst system.
The issue in India, not just we are intensivists, so we are rather on the top of the pyramid. We still lack basics. We can save a huge amount. In my ICU, I work on 10 patients, probably I'll save about 2. But if we have, obviously we all know about this, I'm just repeating. We need to spend more on that basic infrastructure, CHC level problem. And there, with advent of time, now geriatrics is entering there, which is a form many times of a preventive thing. That is where if we concentrate, especially far-flung areas, if we can make, now we have technology and the present government is very, Prime Minister is fond of digitalization. I think
But there's no spending.
that is what I am coming to. So it's just more of a marketing. Actually, we need to work there. There are not enough very well trained doctors, but they're trained doctors where they are sitting, probably they have time, they can be utilized. So what we lack is the utilization of resources. We are not lacking in it. It's an uneven distribution. I think that needs
It's
to
all
be.
clustered in the urban. There's nothing in the rural.
But now we are also having
51%
tele
in the
ICUs.
urban.
No, it's a concept. I mean, is it actually being done?
Yes, yes, tele ICUs we come from.
Mohalla is it's like Mohalla clinic.
No, but tele ICUs.
How useful is the 108 ambulance? As 108 ambulance service. How
In
useful?
fact, when it started in Rajasthan, I can tell you, it was a huge benefit to, even far-flung areas you go and people. But then, as happens with all due respect to the government structure, there were certain allegations that one particular company was favored, and then striking started happening. People struck work. Now it has gone down further a lot. But when it started, it was a brilliant concept. They had a training team. Some of our residents actually joined them, very brilliant people, and it was absolute, there was a call center and it actually reached on time. It is still there, it has changed the way health services are being delivered, at least I can talk about Rajasthan. But it's not what it.
But in Delhi it is not working because there are a lot of box calls. Yes. And the ambulance reaches there and finds that there is nobody.
Delhi there is no one on it.
No, I am talking the
General app.
Delhi government. What is that?
I bought out this 108 for the country at the time.
108
So
is
the
not a
model,
good scheme.
earlier the model was from Hyderabad. Satyam, he was doing it for only Hyderabad. So then I asked him for a presentation. He gave me a presentation 2-3 times. Then a lot of discussions. I said, let me roll it off. That's why I went to US to study the pattern there. In New York County, I had the law out there, and then we said that every hospital has to treat a patient. They can turn away others. All these we incorporated. And then we had the assistant of Stanford University. 5 Sigma, 6 Sigma software on training. The concept of US 80% is the patient stabilized by the paramedics, nurses, and then finally only the doctors call. So this system we wanted, and then to a different concept. And initially we wanted 10,000 ambulances, and then later on 25,000 ambulances. Where in Bihar, call time should be 10 minutes. That was my intention at that time. But then I initiated that. Then today, 22 states, it's going on. It's doing a fairly good work. The first 6 months after my review, I took the review and saw that 24% of the calls were for maternity, and 21 only for emergencies, for the accidents, the trauma accident. So 24 was the maternity. I was very happy, in fact, so that our maternal mortality is one of the highest in the country. So Tamil Nadu is very successfully going.
Assam was immensely successful.
Assam is very huge, immensely successful.
Immensely successful.
And so a lot of states which have taken up in a good way. It's very, very useful, and so that is why the stabilization part, that is what the issues. The ambulances have been earlier from India, has been all going on. It was not ambulatory, it was just a transport vehicle. They took the day, dump and then transfer, that's all. And this was an ambulatory. That's how the success of this. And 16,000 babies have been born in ambulances itself. So not in the hospital, but in the ambulances. So there's hundreds of thousands of patients. I think about 3 crores or something in the last 7-8 years. They have been taken by these ambulances all through the country.
Even in Shillong, in Negrins, when I had been there, they were largely benefited because of this ambulance, because it is located in such a far-flung area, so much away from Shillong on that side, people wouldn't be able to reach there. But because of this ambulance, this service had helped.
Particularly in rural areas. I mean, city you'll find some hospital picking up. In rural area where you have no other facility, they actually go very well.
Even that has changed the concept in the city areas by the corporate hospital. They give free ambulance services now. So actually that has bring a lot of change into that.
Why not integrate the private partnership into this and take it to the next level where, you said 21% accident victims. But if you look at Punjab has probably the largest number of road accidents happening, and they all young. Tamil Nadu. Okay. So
second is Maharashtra.
Okay.
This is Tamil Nadu.
Okay. So even so, your Tamil Nadu in that part of the country, the organ transplant has gone to a next level, which is doing brilliantly. Punjab also could, or every state for that matter, could benefit out of at least from the young uninfected organs, and a lot more could benefit. So rather than just keeping it glued, which is probably not sustainable, because Punjab government, the only thing that we know 108 is the Badal Saab's photograph and going around with nothing on board.
That is strictly, there's too many photographs.
It is only Badal Saab's photograph.
It shouldn't be like.
No, I mean, that brings us to the very fact, such a nice scheme which has benefited, as he has highlighted, so many patients. Now, why states are not very keen on stabilizing and aggressively promoting this further?
So that's what I'm saying.
Some states are doing, but they are not.
That's what I'm saying. To make it sustainable.
And this is a perfect example of a public-private participation.
Yeah.
So earlier, I said there were government schemes, ambulances, but since the private sector has been taken, and then the government is funding, and then so it's a merger, and it's been successfully done. So that is something which is.
That is the reason, because 5,000 ambulances which were bought during Commonwealth Games, and in our hospitals also some 300 of them. Now these maintenance of the ventilators, monitors, etc. is beyond the scope of the government institutions or the who had bought at that time.
So that
you
would
can't
have
do,
been.
government can't do this.
Can't do, it has to
have
be a PPP model so that.
PPP model, and that's how this is successful.
Another thing that is happening where there is the NHAI, especially the highways,
Yes.
they have their own ambulances and they actually are, especially trauma happens largely on big highways, they are working very well.
We, in fact, at the time we had a program, National Emergency and Trauma Program. And at the time we had a lot of discussion with NHAI, Surface Transport Ministry and all that. And we planned every 5 kilometers there'll be a telephone booth, every 50 kilometers an ambulance, every 100 kilometers a primary level trauma center, every 300 secondary level, and then 500 tertiary level. And in fact we gave a lot of money. Tertiary level we spent 15 crores for tertiary level trauma center. In a hospital, not in a standalone. There's no standalone at all. So it should be in a hospital. And for secondary 10 crores and a primary 5 crores. The government all along the highways. Totally on the highways. So this was again, but 108 crores.
So the problem is the government decides on taking out some amount of money, but nobody wants to investigate where is that money gone.
So that is the problem of the states. This is the issue here. The government of India gives the state.
That's our problem.
States.
So just like now, there are ministers or even ex-chief ministers being raided by authorities. I think there should be an accountability of what
There is not one tier. There are 3 tiers of accountability. But then there are people who overcome all 3 tiers and do mischief if they want. So there are people that.
You look at Swachh Bharat, excellent campaign, but no citizen is contributing anything. Nobody is willing to do anything.
But sir, it has changed one thing. Now, if I throw a garbage on the road, many people are now feeling guilty about it. They see around. That is the change they made. So if you see optimistically, at least we are talking about a Swachh Bharat. Before that,
what I am saying is, unless we contribute things, we
not
cannot
change.
change.
We expect government to do everything.
We all know that
Awareness.
Anti-tobacco activities and no smoking in public places and pictorial warning of tobacco products. Initially, I faced a lot of resistance. In fact, the first thing we did was no smoking in movies and serials like Mahesh Bhatt and all these people, Amitabh Bachchan, everybody, they were all created a lot of ruckus, but I said, no, nothing doing, should be. Then they went to the court. Then again the legal issue, because the judiciary has to be sensitized on this. Otherwise, you could bring in a lot of laws, a lot of acts, but then and the next year, WHO said that there shouldn't be smoking scenes in movies. So one whole year I suffered, literally. And someone called me an idiot. In articles I was called as an idiot and who gave me MBBS degrees and a lot of issues with it. So they said freedom of expression, how can this guy say it? So, and when 52% of the reason of the youngsters taking up tobacco is movies. Movies, 52%. So, but then the judiciary was not sensitized at the time. And the issue between Gutka, whether it's a food product or a tobacco product. When I ban Gutka under a tobacco product, the industry go as it's a food product. So when I go against the food product, they said again, then they filed 7 cases all over the country. So if you took, recently, it took after 6 years after I banned it, then only Supreme Court finally a good judge we had. Otherwise that also we could have.
Yes.
So he had to do this thing. So there are so many issues where judiciary has to be sensitized. Law is there, but then initially just it takes a lot of perseverance, like you said.
Yes.
Awareness needs to be there.
Yes. So I would like to thank everyone once again, and I believe we take this forward in our plenary sessions after lunch. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Mr. Ramados.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
For considering all the concerns. Thank you for all the doctors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.